Hi guys, welcome to my first ever video. I'm David, also known as DuckVMin on X, and I'm accompanied with two friends. Here on my left is Ziyuan, and on my right is Anthony. Right now we're at the rooftop of the hotel sponsored to us by Deaf Sisters. This is Sunday. We've just completed the World Championship as well as the 2-on-2 event, and now we're going to be doing the first ever English unboxing for Starter Deck 9 and 10 over here, as well as two boxes of BS10. Okay, we're going to be starting with the starter decks first. We're just going to jump right into starter deck 9. Okay, let's see what we can find in here. Okay, struggling a bit with the box. And just like most starter decks, it comes together with the playmat as well as some instructions on how to play the game. Okay, and we get an exclusive promo card, Sorbet Shark Cookie. Alright, let me take a closer look at the effect. It's a level 2 cookie with 4 HP, and for 3 blue energy, we do 3 damage. Then, if there are 5 or less cards in your hand, you get to draw 1 card from the deck. Alright, very cool card, very cool card. Not sure if it will see play, but the artwork on it, it's brilliant. Okay, now moving on to the good stuff here. Okay, I'm very excited. Come, let's go. And right off the bat, let's talk about Sea Fairy Cookie, a level 3 cookie with 6 HP with the ability activate main once per turn. If your hand size is 5 or less, you can draw 1 card. Wow, what do you think of this skill?
I think the effect is really strong, and I think that the starter deck will really shake up the meta a bit, especially since it's released with BS10, and the BS10 cards for blue are pretty strong itself.
Right, it also has an attack. For 3 blue energy, we do 3 damage, and additionally, you have the option to discard 2 cards to do 1 damage to both cookies on your opponent's field. Okay, so I think right off the bat, I would be comparing this with the BS9 Shadow Milk Cookie, right? I think this card probably edges out Shadow Milk Cookie by a little bit for a few reasons. The first one being that Shadow Milk Cookie requires you to play other Shadow Milk cards in your extra deck for Shadow Milk to work well. And that means that you would be sacrificing cards such as the new BS10 Jage Cookie. You would also be sacrificing maybe your 4th Pure Vanilla or your Will of Nature to play. Additionally, this cookie card has 6 HP, which is pretty relevant. I think that the new meta, when the game gets a bit slower, you end up with a lot of board states where your opponent just wants to go for a one-turn kill, right? Where they just attack you, maybe they bear jelly, they attack again. And so it's important to call out a replacement cookie that's enough HP to survive the one-turn kill. Yeah, so Sea Fairy Cookie, definitely a strong card, definitely something you want to get your hands on if you are a blue player. Probably a good card. I've seen the Koreans use it against me in the Brave League that I played in yesterday. It's a very cool card. Alright, next we have White Pearl Cookie. Okay, it says, if there are 4 cards or less in your hand, you draw up to 2 cards from your deck on play. Alright. And then for 2 blue energy, you do 2 damage. And then for an additional blue energy, if Sea Fairy is in your battle area, you select up to 1 of your opponent's cookies, and that cookie receives 1 damage. Okay, let's first talk about the on-play effect. What do we think about this? I think we know that having 4 or less cards in hand is not always an easy condition to achieve, right? Yeah, so it means that you don't get to use the on-play effect if you start with the cookie as your opening cookie. It probably can't come down too early, but I can see this card synergizing very well in an aggressive blue deck, like a list that plays Pawn Dino, as well as the stage from BS6. I can't remember its name, but yeah, this would probably go well in an aggressive blue deck, but less so in a pure vanilla deck, because in the pure vanilla deck, you don't really want to get your hand size down to 4 or less. And then the attack effect, it requires Sea Fairy Cookie to synergize. Probably something to take note of is that it doesn't have to be this Sea Fairy from the starter deck. It could also be the Sea Fairy card from BS1-2 or BS3-4. Unfortunately, those cards don't see play. Let's find out if this shakes up the meta and brings those cards back into the meta. Yeah, the old Sea Fairies. Okay, and of course, very important, we have the new blue flip that allows you to attack 2 for 2. Definitely much better than the blue flips that do 1 for 1. You want this in your deck. 2 for 2 is a powerful stat line. Get your hands on this flip. It comes with 4 copies of this flip, so you need this starter deck. Alright, maybe one last card. This one? Okay. Yeah, I saw this card used against me in the past few days. A very powerful item. For 2 blue energy, you discard 3 cards and you get to select 1 of your opponent's cookies, and that cookie receives 3 damage. I think when you compare this card with Diving Goggles, you have to pay 1 additional energy, right? It's 3 energy, you discard 2 cards?
I think so.
How much damage do you do? Not a lot, right? 2 and 1? I think it's 2 and 1. Yeah, so I guess this has a lower energy cost, but it comes at the price of a higher hand. You have to discard 1 more card. but I think that it is always easier to discard one additional card, especially when you're playing blue, compared to having to spend one more energy. Energy is much more important, right? So yeah, this card can also be compared with the blue Shadow Milk Gem. As we know, most players who played the blue Shadow Milk Gem, even in their Shadow Milk deck, they rarely attach the gem. The gem doesn't have much of a use in the meta now, at least the attaching part of it. It was played solely because it could do 2 damage that couldn't be tracked. It's indirect damage. But this card lets you do 3 damage. You do 3 damage that's indirect for the same energy cost. Yeah, so I would say this is probably a power creep. If it were up to me, I would definitely play this over the Shadow Milk Gem. Alright, this is a good card. You have to consider this. Now let's move on to the purple starter deck. Okay, I'm excited for this one. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the purple play style. My first ever big tournament win was with Moonlight Cookie. I think Anthony here played the same deck as me for that tournament. Was it Brave League Season 2?
Yes.
Yeah, Brave League Season 2. Okay, so first let's take a look at the exclusive promo. Wow, it's a very cute Milky Way cookie card. Look at that. Alright. Okay, very interesting. Its on-play effect is to discard 1 card and you return a purple cookie to your hand. This reminds me of Cream Unicorn. I think the USA representative, what's his name, Keith? He had it in his deck as well, right? Yeah. Not sure if this is better than Cream Unicorn. Purple really benefits from having 5 HP level 2 cookies because of their ability to reset and trash their level 2s, right? So you just want cookies that stick on the field. Hopefully they survive on 1, you get to reset and your opponent wastes their attack doing nothing. So this might not take the spot of Unicorn Cookie from BS1 and 2, but it is a more aggressive option. It provides players with more flexibility, with some more flexibility. Maybe you want to play both in your deck if you really want to look for cards in your trash. Okay, now to the juicy stuff. Moonlight Cookie. Look at that artwork. I've always seen this card with this artwork. I think there was a tournament in Taipei, right? And then the tournament in Taipei, they had the artwork of this Moonlight Cookie as one of the prizes, and I always thought, wow, this card looked gorgeous. I was always so jealous that I could never get my hands on a Moonlight Cookie with this artwork, but look at that. We have it now here in the purple starter deck. Okay, and its effect. Play up to 1 purple cookie that is level 2 or lower from your trash. And then 3 energy, 3 damage. You place 1 purple cookie that is level 2 or lower from your battle area to your trash, and you get to draw 2 cards and discard 1. Right, so I think the most obvious comparison here would be with the BS34 Moonlight Cookie, right? The one that on play, if your opponent has 2 cookies in their battle area, you get to select 1 and trash 1 of them. Now that was a very, very strong card. It also helped you filter out your hand extremely early on, right? But I think that card kind of fell off in the later meta because of the blue Pure Vanilla deck. Now the blue Pure Vanilla deck, if you're familiar with it, it's a deck that generally only requires 1 cookie on field for the most part of it. Against purple, the blue Pure Vanilla will not call a blocker down. They'll be playing around the Moonlight Cookie. So it's very, very difficult for you to get value from the on-play effect of the old Moonlight Cookie. And that is why I think this card has made its way into the meta because its on-play effect is not dependent on your opponent having 2 cookies on field. As long as you have a level 2 or lower from trash, you can play it. And that brings me to my next card, which is Stardust Cookie with a very powerful on-play effect. So the synergy is there. When you use Moonlight Cookie, you play a level 2 cookie or lower from your trash. And if you play the new Stardust Cookie and the condition is met, 15 or more cards in your trash, you get to do 1 damage to all of your opponent's cookies. That means you do 2 damage basically for free. And I think that's really strong, that's really broken, right? Wow, very strong interaction. There are some conditions that must be fulfilled, but it's very strong. Alright, and Moonlight Cookie, it also has an attack effect. So I would say this is where it appears to lose out compared to the BS34 Moonlight Cookie, correct? Because the BS34 Moonlight Cookie only requires 15 cards in your opponent's trash to draw 2 and discard 1, which means that each time you attack, your hand size increases by a net of +1. But for this card, technically your hand size remains net neutral because you would have to play a cookie for it to be trashed, and only after that you draw 2 and discard 1. But you must remember that there are cookies that can synergize with being moved to trash. One example would be BS56, Cream Yogurt Cookie. When it's placed in trash, you get to search the top 3 cards of your deck and add a cookie of your choice to your hand. Yeah, so Moonlight Cookie, definitely a strong card for you to keep your eyes on. I'm also going to quickly talk about Stardust Cookie's attack effect. After you attack, if you place a level 1 from your battle area into your trash, you also do 1 more damage. So similarly, this also synergizes with Cream Yogurt Cookie. It also allows you to reset a level 1 cookie that may have taken some damage beforehand. Very, very strong card. I think that purple looks like they were given a lot more aggressive options in this starter deck. Okay, just like all of the new starter decks, a level 1 heal flip that goes 2 for 2. And the last card I want to talk about is Little Star. Okay, you look excited. Want to tell us what the card does and if you have any thoughts about it?
So for 1 energy, you place 1 level 1 cookie from your battle area into the trash. and then you may place up to one cookie that is level 2 or lower from your opponent's battle area into the trash. So I think that this card is really, really strong because it's essentially a Starfruit Cookie's effect, but without a liability on board. Starfruit Cookie leaves a level 1 with 3 HP on board, and it may just be killed instantly. But for this, although you do have to trash level 1, so there is a restriction on what cards you are able to trash, I think that because of the fact that it is not a cookie card and an item card instead, it lets you play a little more aggressively with your trashing effects.
Right, I guess the drawback would be that you don't get to trash a level 2 cookie and you want to protect your level 2 cookies, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it also means that you can push very aggressively with 2 level 1s on field. Because beforehand, if the purple player wanted to play 2 level 1s on field, your opponent could kind of lock your board out a bit. Where you have 2 level 1s stuck there, the only way you move them out is with a Forbidden Grimoire. But to play the Grimoire, it also means that they have already attacked you, which means they aren't really starving you. But now with Little Star, they can't starve you, especially if you play very aggressive level 1s to trash opponent's cards like Starfruit. They don't do anything after their on-play effect. But Little Star solves that problem. And I can see, as an Arena Green player, alright, I think this card is a big, big problem for me. If you were to just trash all of my level 2s, I wouldn't have much to attack you with. I would really need to draw the Choco Drizzle. This is a card to keep your eyes out on. And you have to remember, it can be played together with Starfruit. You don't have to choose one. And so, yeah, purple really given some very powerful options in the newest starter deck. Yeah, so excited for the new meta, man.